Tag fighters have always had a very special place in the hearts of many in the fighting game community. Whether it is the long and rich history of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 that continues to this very day, or the many insane matchups we saw when Dragon Ball FighterZ released, where players from all sorts of different communities were now duking it out under one game. Or even the indie breakout hit Skullgirls, who has overcome many hurdles with development and IP rights to being a well-loved and active title over 10 years after its original release. Or even the iconic You Wanna Learn an Infinite video from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Tag fighters tend to always bring the hype and also the views, and for a good reason. They make for great viewer spectacles. Combos are long and intricate, which are exciting to watch. The games typically are based on a beloved series with huge rosters, which creates awesome team compositions in extremely varied sets whenever a different player steps up. But all this being said, if you're active in the FGC, you'll notice that it seems like tag fighters aren't quite in the spotlight right now, and haven't been in the last few years. Dragon Ball is still active, but isn't quite as talked about anymore, with the general consensus that the game was sort of just getting worse with each patch. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was really just a PR disaster that resulted in a rough launch that it never really recovered from, leaving most of the community on MVC3, which has terrible netcode. Skullgirls is kicking, but still not quite at the level of a headliner event like MVC3 or Dragon Ball were in their primes. But tag fighters could be seeing a resurgence soon. There are 2 games being developed right now. Thinking optimistically, assuming both of these games turn out amazing and how I wish them to, we could see 2 very distinct paths opening up for tag fighter fans. I'm obviously talking about 2XKO, developed by Riot Games, and also Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact, developed by Aiding. Both of these games are tag fighters, one being 2v2 and the other being 3v3. They both feature directional specials instead of motion specials, which is fine with me. I prefer a game just going for one or the other instead of trying to find an awkward middle ground like they did with Street Fighter 6. The devs of Nen Impact are actually the same development company behind Marvel 3. It's been a while, so I'm not entirely sure how much of the same devs are at the company, but that is definitely a big plus for Nen Impact's marketing. I'm excited for both of these, but I won't lie, I am more excited to try out Nen Impact personally. But they both offer a potentially very fun path for this genre that needs a bit of love. And they both seem very heavily inspired by Marvel vs. Capcom, the series that we all know and love. Before we start talking about each game, I just want to give a quick shout out to my Discord community. We have an awesome and welcoming community. The server features netplay roles for various games and pings for when I go live on Twitch, as well as a book club. If any of that interests you, make sure to go check that out in the description below. Alright, let's get back to talking about these games. First, let's talk about 2XKO. This game has a lot of eyes on it already. It is being developed by Riot Games, which will bring in a big audience from their existing IPs such as League of Legends and Valorant. This will be a lot of people's first fighting game. So the expectation from the existing fighting game community is that there will be a big potential for a lot of players competing, lots of viewers for events and content creators, and with that you can expect a lot of money to be made. The team behind the game has deep roots in the FGC, with Tom and Tony Cannon being the founders of EVO, the creators of GGPO, an open source solution to rollback netcode, and they're also the creators of Rising Thunder, before Riot came through and acquired their company to begin work on 2XKO. So it's clear Riot is taking their first adventure into this genre very seriously. But the FGC has a certain grassroots culture to it. So while it's exciting for what's in store, Riot still has to prove itself to many of the FGC. The community prides itself on individuality. Its grassroots nature has commonly rejected many of the esports norms that you'd expect out of something like Riot's other pro leagues. So it'll be interesting to see after the initial hype dies out if Riot will stand to be respected by the community, but time will tell on that. As for gameplay, the game is looking amazing so far. The presentation is top-notch. We have confirmation of rollback netcode, so online will be the best it can be. Combos are looking long and in-depth. I definitely expected this game to be maybe dumbed down a little bit, but they seem to have found a nice balance of accessibility and managed to not sacrifice any of that depth. I'm very excited to see how the game turns out and really hope for the best, because as more people fall in love with fighting games, the more other series will get exposure as well. With how interconnected the FGC is in between titles, it's definitely a rising tide that raises all ships kind of thing. No matter how the game shakes out, I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of top players from all scenes duking out in a game, and it's going to be an amazing experience, just like kind of how Dragon Ball FighterZ was. But now let's talk about Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact. This game almost seems to be like the antithesis of 2XKO. It looks a little rough around the edges, has a low budget and a relatively short development time. I've already seen a lot of hate from those outside of the FGC about this game's visual appearance, but if you're familiar with the development team Aiding, this is the team behind Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, and DNF Duel. You'll know their games tend to be a little bit broken, and to me, this is actually exciting. I want to be able to get in on one of these broken games from the start. Broken fighting games are sort of like playing vintage Magic or even modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything is so strong, fast, and absurd, really. It ends up just being a fun time. Yeah, it might not be the most balanced thing for a super competitive esports, but I don't think that's what this game is. I don't think we're going to see people, duking it out for thousands upon thousands of dollars. I think the game just looks like it's going to be really fun. And if the game is fun, and hopefully the game has good online netcode, preferably, rollback, I think we will see a really solid grassroots community form behind this. Marvel has never really been a well-balanced game, and we still love it all the same. I'm fully expecting there to be at least one Infinite on launch, maybe some sort of cheap team that dominates the month 1 meta, and I think that will be awesome to experience. For it to be successful though, I do hope they can improve on how fast they deliver balanced patches and DLC, because I think that is something that really hurt the momentum for DNF Duel, because that game was getting really good numbers at launch. I don't know if it was like an issue with Nexon or Aiding themselves, but hopefully with less hands on this project, they can maybe move through that type of stuff faster and deliver a fun experience. Aiding did comment and say something along the lines of, "We want moves to feel powerful if they were powerful in the source material," even if that means they'll be overpowered in a typical fighting game sense. So hopefully that means they are leaning more into the absurdity that can come with a tag fighter. That comment alone has raised my hype levels for this game a lot. But however it ends up shaking out, the FGC has room for both of these games. I'll be playing both of them 100% when they come out. I think it's a very exciting time to be a fan of tag fighters. There definitely seems like there is a little bit of a gap in the community for either of these games to succeed. I'll definitely be checking out some other tag fighters in preparation, so if that's something that interests you, make sure to like and subscribe for, more of that. But, as always, keep playing fighting games and have a good rest of your day. When editing this video, I just thought it was really funny that you can definitely tell I'm way more excited for Nen Impact just by the tone of my voice. Just thought that'd be a funny thing to throw in there at the end.